Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of The Thing About Golf, an in-depth discussion with former Masters champion Mark O'Meara on the 25th anniversary of his win. Our man John Huggan is on the grounds at Augusta National, and aside from this fabulous discussion with O'Meara, he also caught up with 1991 winner Ian Woosnam. We'll bring you that chat later in the week, but for now, enjoy this look back with Mark O'Meara.
Okay, here we go. The latest The Thing About Golf podcast is a very special one. I'm here at Augusta National with a very special person. 25 years ago, the man sitting opposite me won the Masters in 1998. Mark O'Meara, welcome along. And what was the thing about golf for you?
You know, John, I mean, it was a special moment. I think that I didn't start playing golf until late, relatively late compared to most young people, 13 years of age. Mm-hmm. You know, I moved around a bunch as a young person growing up. Mm-hmm. But I think by the time I was 13, I'd lived in North Carolina, Ohio, Michigan, New York, Texas, California, Illinois, back to California.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I moved around a ton. And, you know, it's always difficult making friends when you get moved around so much. And then, boom, we moved back to Southern California for the second time and above a golf course and took my mom's clubs and hiked down the hill and started playing.
Is that when it took a grip on you, was it?
You know, I think so. I mean, I think that I know that golf wasn't cool to start back playing then in 1969, but for me, you know, like I said a lot of times, it kind of became my friend.
Right, yeah. And when did it become clear that you were, you know, there was some talent there?
Wow. It never really came totally clear.
No, don't be modest.
No. Seriously, I think I was lucky. My next door neighbor was a year older than I was, and he played golf too. And we had a good high school team. I steadily got a little bit better through high school. Never really had any formal instruction. Mm-hmm. I would say my sophomore year in high school, you know, I was shooting in par, 1 over, 2 over, 1 under. And my junior year in high school, we won the state championship out in California. So, look, that was a nice accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that long after that. I mean, you won the U.S. Amateur and played here as U.S. Amateur champion, not with any great distinction, I must add, however. What was your feeling then? Could you have imagined then coming back here to win the thing?
Well, I think, you know, it was my senior year in college when I had a good summer. I won the California State Amateur. I won some other tournaments. I was an All-American at Long Beach State. But then later that summer, I won the U.S. Amateur, as you know, got me into the Masters. It got me into the U.S. Open. So I come to the Masters in 1980 as the U.S. Amateur champion. And to be fair, I sucked. I mean, I don't want to be rude by the word, but I did. I mean, these kids today that are playing college golf and amateur golf, they come to the Masters if they're fortunate to get the invite, and they think they can possibly win. You know, I just tried not to kill anybody out there on the golf course with a golf shot. So, yes, I was intimidated. I stayed in the crow's nest above the champions' locker room. And I think I played with Fuzzy Zella the first day. He was the defending Masters champion. You had to take a Masters caddy. You couldn't bring your own caddy. I hit it okay on the range. I remember on Thursday before going out, I felt okay about my game. And I parred the first hole somehow, some way. I don't remember how I did it because I was so nervous. But the reality slipped in real quick when I hooked it off the number 2 tee down into the ditch and made a double. And I think I shot 80. 81, whatever I shot, but it wasn't very pretty.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I look at it as a complete punter. I mean, the fear factor would be overwhelming, I think, for most people. Yeah,
it was huge. I mean, I remember, I think I played late the first day on Thursday, and staying in the crow's nest because it's located above the champions' locker room. I remember early in the morning in my gym shorts and my T-shirt, you know, up in the little dormitory that is the crow's nest where the amateurs stay if they choose to, looking down and seeing people teeing off on the first tee, you know, and the immense amount of crowds and spectators and patrons that come here to the Masters tournament, which is a little overwhelming, you know, for your first-time visit.
Mm-hmm. And how did you leave? What was your mental state leaving?
You know, I was disappointed. Did it put you off turning pro?
I mean, obviously you did.
I will say this. I will say that I distinctly remember driving down Magnolia Lane that Friday afternoon after missing the cut. And my dad, it was just my dad and I in the car, and my dad looked over at me and he goes, you know, Mark, you know, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, Dad, what do you mean? He goes, well, I know you're disappointed. You know, you didn't play it the way you'd like. And I said, you know, Dad, I know a couple things. And he's like, what's that? I said, well, number one, I don't know if I'll ever make it as a professional golfer or not. I said, but I do know this other thing. And he said, what is it? I said, no matter what happens in my life, I get to play in the Masters one time.
Yeah.
And then 18 years later.
Yeah. What's it like that first time, especially as an amateur? I mean, how you get treated? There's a dinner. I know there's an amateur dinner, and is it easy to just kind of get overwhelmed by all the other stuff?
I'll be honest with you, John. I think in '80 when I played here as the U.S. Amateur, I don't remember there was an amateur dinner. Yeah, on that Monday night.
Yeah.
I do know there is one now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that year, I think there was only one other person staying up in the crow's nest because there was a few amateurs that would play in the Masters back then, but not the amount that are coming now.
No,
I that's all I recall.
Well, there's other ways in now.
For sure,
Asia Pacific,
British amateur. I mean, there's lots of opportunities for amateurs to compete now.
Did you hang around and watch, or did you get?
I did not. I did not. I watched it on TV on the weekend.
That's a typical player reaction, isn't it? I'm gone.
I'm out. I'm out. I didn't want to. I just remember it was such an overwhelming feeling and experience to play at the Masters, and to be quite fair, it was quite humbling. Number one, and number two, you're embarrassed. I mean, I don't want to, hit golf balls through the scoreboard on number 11, that's short of the lake and making triples and doubles and hitting it in the bushes, and of course, I think it probably made the patrons or whoever is out there watching that there was that many people watching me play, but maybe certainly Fuzzy Zeller, probably made them feel good that I could kind of hit shots like they hit.
Yeah,
how that goes.
You're probably exaggerating it a bit, but still, how far was your game from pro level at that point then? I mean, Seve won that Masters.
80. I would say that I was convinced that I wanted to turn professional, but that was definitely a setback. In 80, not playing that well here. And later that year, I did play in the U.S. Open. I think I shot 79, missed the cut there too. And I was paired with Seve Ballesteros and Hale Irwin the first two rounds. Right. But later that year, I also played in the Byron Nelson, which was a tournament played on the tour, which still is played on the tour and at Preston Trails. And I made the cut in that event. Right. And tied Jack Nicklaus. So I thought, hey, if I can tie Jack Nicklaus, who is my idol, greatest record, greatest player, then maybe I should, think about trying to turn professional.
Yeah. And you did. Now, I'm going to kind of jump forward a little bit to the point where you were struggling as a professional.
Right.
Just how important was the day you met Hank Haney?
Well, it was huge. I mean, my rookie year, I finished 56 on the money list, kept my card.
Which is no mean feat, by the way.
Not bad. I think I made $76,000. I was rookie of the year. And then my second year I struggled, and that's when I was on the range at Pinehurst, North Carolina. And they were going to the top 125. They were changing the criteria on the tour. And I was on the range there, and you're right. I mean, I didn't have an instructor all the way up really to that time, and I was hitting all over the lot. And sure enough, I looked back. I saw some guy standing behind me, and I said, hey, he looked like one of the instructors. I'm like, hey, what do you think? And the guy introduced himself. His name was Ken Crow, and Ken was one of the assistant teaching instructors at Pinehurst. And that's where the Hall of Fame tournament was being played that week on the PGA Tour. And he goes, do you mind if I get somebody else? And I'm like, hell no. I said, bring the whole staff out. I need all the help I can get.
Yeah.
And so he left, came back 15 minutes later, and he brought up another young teaching instructor there and introduced himself as Hank Haney. And, kind of the rest is kind of history. I mean, Hank was an assistant teaching instructor at Pinehurst at that time. But, his tutelage was underneath Jim Hardy and Exmoor and grew up kind of in the Midwest and all over. And he had a pretty good knowledge of obviously just not only the golf swing, but, he played too at college. So Hank and I went to work. I mean, he said to me, Mark, your swing is very upright and a lot of hands in there, and that's why you see the hooks and stuff that you're hitting. I think if you get your swing a little bit more on plane or a little more rounded, try to take your hands out, use your body a little bit better, I believe you'd become a better player. And so I'm like, all right,
that's a big thing.
Well, like any student, there's like, how long is this going to take, right? Yeah. That's the first thing you ask. And he's like, I don't know that. I said, but I do know that truly believe you'll become a better player. And so I said, okay, let's do this. And we started working at the end of 82. I kept my card. 83, I still struggled, but I stayed with Hank. We were in the snow at Pinehurst hitting balls, no one around. I'm throwing clubs all over the driving range because I can't get it and being frustrated, but I just stuck with it. He watched me hit, millions of golf balls. And I'd say in the end of 83, so I've been working with Hank for about a year and a half, it started to get a little bit better. I kept my card. And then 84, the beginning of the year, I could tell it was starting to click. And, I had 16 top 10s in 84. I won my first tournament in 84 in Milwaukee, beating Tom Watson, who was the best player in the world at the time, and finished second on the money list. So it was the right move.
I mean, you guys were Faldo and Ledbetter before Faldo and Ledbetter.
That's correct. Yeah. That's correct, yeah.
I mean, in the interest of full disclosure, I mean, I ghost wrote a lot of stories for you, for Golf Digest, and for Hank, so I'm familiar with the change that you made. I mean, it's vast. I mean, I've seen pictures of your swing pre-Hank, and it's a long way from where you are or you were afterwards.
That's very true, John. Yeah. I didn't, like I said, look, I watched golf on TV. I'm a fan of golf, and so I would try to emulate different players. You watch these tournaments and whoever it may be, and so that was basically the tutelage that I had leading up to meeting Hank.
Yeah, I'm going to jump forward a bit now. You spent a lot of time with Tiger when he was in these formative years as a pro, certainly. Huge. I mean, obviously he was what he was. I mean, but how beneficial was that? Looking back to you playing with him, most days during the week. Seeing that golf.
I've said many times, certainly Tiger changed my life. I mean, coming into my life, he came in like towards the end of not my career, but kind of, on my slower year part of my life. I think I was 39 when I first met. I met Tiger earlier when he was 17. We played golf, but when he turned pro at 19, I was 39, 38 to 39. And, when they moved him into Orlando, they said, hey, look after the kid. He doesn't have a lot of 19-year-olds out there. And, I said, listen, Tiger has my number. We've already played. We knew each other. We'd kind of stayed in touch. And certainly he moved into Orlando to Isleworth there where I was living. And he became my little brother for those 10 years, and when you're around somebody that's so gifted, like he hadn't even gotten his card yet, hadn't won a tournament yet, but you could see that, there's something special brewing here.
Yeah.
And, it was fun. I mean, the ride that I got to witness and see, certainly he lifted me along a little bit. I think he made me a better player. I think that I also believe that I might not have won those two majors at 41 if he hadn't come into my life. It doesn't mean that I was hitting the ball great coming into Augusta in 1998 or coming in with this great momentum like these young players today have coming in. Mm-hmm. But I do believe being around him and him pushing me a little bit certainly helped.
Yeah, I mean, you just get better by doing it, don't you? I mean, it's hard to put into words. Over a period, just being around him would make you better without actually being able to explain exactly why, just by seeing it.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, like it's when you play tennis with somebody that is quite a bit better than you on the tennis court. Yeah. You may not be able to beat them, but every so often one of your return shots comes off the rack and you're like, whoa, that was pretty good. I don't think I've ever hit one like that before. Yeah. So I would use that same analogy with being around Tiger. Mm. Now, I can't hit a golf ball like Tiger Woods, right? But I knew I could putt pretty well, and he picked my brain a lot. I got to witness something very special, and because of that, I think certainly it bode well for me going forward and winning the major championships like I did in '98.
Mm. Were you aware of any particular part of your game that improved, or it was just an overall? Probably more mental. I think
it was probably that. I think it was more mental from the standpoint. Like he used to always drill me before he got his card. He'd be like, "Mo, I want to play with you. I want to play against you. I want to play with you on Ryder Cup teams. I want to compete against you. I want to go heads up down the stretch with you." And then he'd come with like, "How come you haven't won a major?" And I look at Tiger Woods. I'm like, "Well, Tiger, it's not that easy to win a major championship, Mm-hmm. And maybe I've come close. I mean, I've had some opportunities. I just haven't closed the deal." Mm-hmm. And, I mean, obviously we've witnessed what he's done over the 20-plus years.
That's a case of, be careful what you ask for, because some of those things that you just mentioned there, you did them. You kicked his ass in the world. People forget the world match play at Wentworth that year in '98 as well.
All of those things that he talked about before he ever got his card came to fruition. We played together on Ryder Cup teams. At Valderrama, his first Ryder Cup, and like you pointed out, we went heads up against each other in a lot of different tournaments. '97 at Pebble when I beat him coming down the stretch, and then in '98, certainly at the Open Championship too. Later that year when I beat Brian Watson in the playoff. Tiger was one shot behind of being in the playoff, and trust me, he reminded me of that. Like, if one shot better, I'd have been in the playoff. I would have kicked your butt, and I would have won the claret jug. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I have the claret jug right now, and that, I had a claret jug before he ever had a claret jug. So, when you're around greatness like that, even though it was early in his stage of greatness, it definitely lifted me.
Mm-hmm. Well, '98. I mean, he was in the middle of changing things in '98 as well, I think. But you were the best player in the world in 1998. There's no question about that.
Well, I never got to number one. I appreciate that. I got to number 2, and that was pretty good.
I know, but you always run these things down. I know you do.
I don't think I was. I don't. Whatever.
2 majors in the world match play. Come on.
I know. But John, I mean,
and you were well up in the PGA as well. People forget
third,
that.
Third.
Yeah, so.
And I think I finished 32nd, maybe at the U.S. Open. So it was a good year.
You missed the cut in the U.S. Open.
No.
It was at San Francisco.
No.
Did you not miss the cut?
No.
All right, okay. I had it in my head you missed the cut.
That doesn't like you to miss something like
true.
that. Trust me. I made the cut before.
Yes.
Look it up. Look it up.
Yeah, I take your word for it.
Okay.
Because I remember that week it was weird weather, San Francisco weather, because it was freezing.
Lee Jansen win.
Olympic, yeah. And then it was 85 degrees 10 miles up the road.
Maybe 38th, 32nd, 38th, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I've missed a lot of U.S. Open cuts.
I stand corrected on that. Yeah, well done. It's not often that happens.
No worries. I know that. I'm glad I caught you on that.
We need to talk about the Masters win, since we're here. That's primarily the focus. Famously, you didn't lead until you hold the putt on 18, but
that's usually when you want to.
Well, exactly, the best time to lead. Absolutely. What are your memories? If let's just start with that general question. When you look back on it,
my memories that week were. I remember playing the practice rounds with Tiger because we'd always practiced together. We were home the week before at Isleworth practice, and we came up here. We played practice rounds together. And I'm going to be dead honest. I was not hitting the ball well. I wasn't putting well. I didn't feel confident whatsoever. And so, my expectations were extremely low as the week got started.
Yeah, I remember talking to you earlier, and you were moaning about how bad you were playing.
Couldn't do anything. I was hitting it terrible. Yeah. And, I got out there the first day. It was windy. The course was playing kind of tough. It was different then. Obviously, it didn't have the length that the course has now. But it was playing pretty tough. And I distinctly remember, I think I was 1 or 2 over on the front 9, and I remember on 10 I had about a 10-footer for par, 8-footer for par, and it was a left to right putt. And I was over, and I wasn't feeling very confident, and I kind of yipped it with my right hand. I mean, I felt it in there, and I knew it.
We're going to get to that later, but
I missed it, and I was like, man, I'm thinking, this isn't good. How can I'm thinking, whatever. I yipped the putt on 10. And I get done. I shoot 2 over par, 74. Yeah, the first round. Yeah. Wasn't happy.
No.
And everybody else is always like, oh, you didn't play that bad. Everybody, my wife and my kids and Hank. And I'm looking at Hank Haney, and I'm like, listen, I don't think you understand. I yipped the putt on number 10. Yeah. This is the first round. I either hit the ball good at Augusta National and don't putt well, or I putt well and I don't hit it well. So
see, that must have come as a bit of a shock. I mean, you putted beautifully back then. I mean, you were one of the best putters in the world. Never mind,
I know, but I'm just being dead honest. Yeah. It was in there. I didn't feel confident on the greens, and these greens, as we all know and watch as a fan, are the most treacherous, most difficult greens. I mean, you have to be so precise on the greens at Augusta National. And we got done. I played late on Thursday, and Hank's like, let's go to the putting green. And it was like 7:30 at night, and we were over on the putting green. And he's like, look, he goes, it looks to me like I'll never forget this, John, as long as I live. He goes, it looks to me like your eye line is too far to the right of the line, and your putter is a little too closed. And so I look at Hank Haney, and I'm like, well, so what is it that you want me to do? He goes, I think you need to tilt your head, your eye line more to the left, cock your head a little more left, your eye line so it's more left, and then open the putter face up. And I remember looking at Hank Haney. I'm like, oh, now let me get this straight. That's what you want me to do tomorrow. Right. I said, do you understand that these greens run 14 on the stemp meter out there? I said, are you crazy, Hank? I'm not. So he just tried. Just sit here, get your head a little more over the line or whatever. And so I'm putting, and it's almost dark now on Thursday night. So, okay, here we go on Friday. The goal is to try to, think a little of that.
Mind you, that's a big thing with Hank. I've heard him talk about the eye line thing before. He preaches that quite a lot on putting.
He does. And look, I mean, so on Friday, my to be fair, my goal is to just try to make the cut.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I get out there. I don't feel comfortable. I'm getting my eye line more to the left on the first green, and I don't remember exactly how the day went. I know that I shot 70. Yeah. So now 2 under par for the day. Even par, I make the cut.
Yeah. So you're quite happy at that point, right? Is that an exaggeration?
No, I mean, I am happy because it's always good to play on the weekend at Augusta National and the Masters tournament. And, we got out there on Saturday, and it was windy again, and I found out who I played with because he reminded me, because he told me how well I played. It was Scott McCarron that I played with on Saturday. Right. And Scott was like, you hit the ball so well, you putted good. I'm thinking, I don't remember that. I know that I shot 68. Mm-hmm. And obviously I putted better, but I still, to be honest, truthful with everybody, I didn't feel confident on the greens.
People will be listening to this thinking, what's he talking about?
I know, but I'm dead honest. I know how I felt. And so I shoot 68, and now, bingo. I'm going into the press room. I'm on that list of next best players to have never won a major championship, which is good and bad. I mean, I think it was kind of flattering for me because, I'd won around the world. I'd won 14 times in the PGA Tour.
You were in the conversation on that.
And that's really nice that people would even, put me in that. But I didn't really look at my life as a failure because I hadn't won a major yet. I mean, it's just maybe it wasn't in the cards for me. And I told the media, I said, look, I'll go out there tomorrow. I'm in the final group with Fred Couples. He's won before. He's won the Masters. I went to qualifying school with Fred Couples. We had similar careers. Obviously, he was a fan favorite, and I get that. But I felt like, I'll get out there tomorrow and do the best I can. And, I remember that Sunday. There was a lot going on that Sunday. For example, Jack Nicklaus.
Yes, that's right. People forget that,
56 years old.
Yeah.
He's 3 under through 5. He's on the leaderboard.
Was he 6th at the end, something like that?
Yeah. I think he finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, the place was erupting. It was going crazy, and rightfully so. But I got out there the last day, and I was nervous, and I had a lot of good breaks. I look at some of the breaks that happened to me on Sunday. It's things that you might not have saw or the TV might not have picked up. But I know when I recap that round of where my ball landed on certain holes, where if it would have landed a yard or two different, it would have been a totally different outcome.
Mm-hmm. So when did it occur to you that, you were actually in with a shout here? It sounds like you're looking at the dark side of every, the ledger.
I mean, when I pulled my tee shot on the second hole and it clipped the edge of the trees and dropped down it, but it didn't roll down to the ditch, that's a good break.
Yeah.
Right? And then lay up.
That's not a good place to.
Then I made birdie on the second hole. Yeah. And then let's say, for example, on number 4, the pin's back right, the tee was up. I hit it on the very far left part of the green, and I got a 60-footer, and I'm praying for 2-putt.
Yeah.
And I hoop it for birdie.
Wow.
So when things like that start happening, you still have a lot of golf still to be played, but it's like, whoa.
But that's what winners do, that sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are the kind of small steps that you have to fall in place to maybe get the outcome that you're hoping for. And then I remember on number 9, I pulled my drive up the left side. It hit the trees, and I had to I couldn't get to the green. Got it down there about 70 yards to the green. I remember Fred hit a really good drive on 9. There was a lot of players that were playing well that day. David Duval, Jim Furyk. There was a lot of players in the mix, and Fred hit a sand wedge or a wedge into the green, and it spun back off the green down the hill. I pitched it to about 6 feet. He pitched it to about 10 feet. He made bogey. I made par.
Right.
So that was like a big swing. And then certainly on 13, he hit it left off the tee and made double on the par 5 13. And by the time we got around to the 15th tee, the par 5, David Duval had posted 8 under par. I believe David had got to 9. He 3-putted 16. But we saw that he had posted 8 under par, and Fred and I were both 6 under on the 15th tee, the par 5. Fred drove it to the right. I hit a good drive down the middle. It used to be big mounds between 17 and 15. You didn't have the amount of trees that there are there now. I hit a 3-iron on the green. He hit a 6-iron over top the trees to about 10 feet, 8 feet. I 2-putted from 35 feet for birdie. He made eagle to go to 8. I went to 7. And then 16, the par 3, he hit it on the green. I hit a beautiful 6-iron to about 18, 16, 17, 18 feet. He 2-putted. I hit a really good putt that looked like it was going in. I thought it was going in, and it caught the left side of the hole, didn't go in. I remember tapping in, and I know you know the story, but I know your listeners probably haven't heard this story. So I'm walking off the green, and I remember Jerry Higginbotham was caddying for me at the time, and I said to Jerry, as we were kind of quietly walking off the green, Fred and Joe LaCava were up in front of us. I said to Jerry, I said, Jerry, I said, that's as good a 6-iron as I can hit. And very softly, and I said, that's as good a putt as I can hit in this situation. I said, you know what, give me a new ball. I'll birdie the last 2 holes. I'm going to birdie the last 2 holes. Now, I don't know why I said that, John.
It's not like you to say
it's
something.
It's totally not like me.
Yeah.
And I said it.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean it. I didn't know what the heck I was saying.
Yeah.
It just kind of came out of my mouth. So he gave me a new Strata golf ball. That's what I was playing then. And I got up on 17. I hit a good drive right down the middle. Fred hit a good one up the right side. He was about 12 yards in front of me. I hit it right over the top of the pin with a 9-iron to about 12 feet. He hit it on the right edge. He got it up and down for par. I got over my putt. I felt like I was going to make it. I was calm over my putt. I believed I was going to make it. I made it. And now all of a sudden, I'm 8 under par. Fred Couples is 8 under par on the 18th tee.
Yeah. I'm impressed at the level of detail that you remember, because often players they just blank out most of it. But you were well aware of what was going on. You still are, obviously.
Well, I do, because I remember when I hit my second shot into 17, the 71st hole, this 9-iron, and I hit a really good shot. I remember Fred looking over at me and was like, "Hey, gave me the wink, like nice shot, Mo." And I remember standing there, and I know that sports people, sportsmen and women, all talk about this feeling that come over you, right? This zone that you get in, or this calmness, or whatever you might want to call it. I remember standing in that 17th fairway after I'd hit that shot, and Fred was getting ready to hit his second shot, and I looked up, and I could the sun, the shadows from the spectators, the green grass, the white bunker in front of the green on 17. This like calmness came over me, like, wow, this is beautiful out here. This feeling of, hey, I got a chance to win the Masters, that didn't come over me, but this really calmness about the natural beauty of Augusta National, and it's just I got all of a sudden the zone, this thing kind of came over me.
Yeah.
And I think it certainly gave me the calmness to, make a good stroke on the 71st hole to make that birdie putt.
Yeah. And the 18, the putt on 18, I've watched it a million times. I'm sure you have as well. What's this classic question? What's going through your head as you're standing over that?
Well, it's a very valid point. On 18, I hit a good drive. I remember I hit a little cut drive off the 18th tee in the middle of the fairway. Fred hit it in the left bunker. And I remember when we were walking off the tee, I told Jerry, I said, Jack Nicklaus would be proud of that tee shot. That's what I said to Jerry, because everybody thought that I hooked the ball at the time, whatever. Yeah. But I hit a nice little fade off the tee on 18 with a driver, and Fred went over the left bunker. He hit it in the right greenside bunker. I hit a 7-iron that I hit maybe a groove low on the face, and I knew it kind of needed to get up because I was obviously keeping it right of the flag. Yeah. And it literally hit a yard short of the false front and went forward because the green was kind of still firm. Mm-hmm. And as we walked up to the green, now I've got this 18-foot putt, and Fred's in the right bunker, and everybody and the patrons all stand up and applaud the final group. And it's funny, not only a player and a pro and played around the world, John, I'm a fan too, right? Mm-hmm. And I watch these tournaments, and I've always thought to myself, watching the Masters, whether it was Sandy Lyle or Ian Woosnam or whoever it may be, whoever, how does anybody make a putt on the 18th green?
How do you take the putter back?
In the final group of the Masters to try to win the Masters tournament.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there I'm in that scenario, right? So we come on the green, and I could tell I needed some water. My mouth was very dry, obviously very nervous. Mm-hmm. Handed my ball to Jerry. I waited to the side, and I thought to myself, you know what? Fred Couples is going to hole his bunker shot. I'm going to have to make this putt to tie Fred Couples. And I certainly think over the years that's the right mindset to have.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Fred hit a good bunker shot to about 4 feet below the hole. So now it's obviously my turn to putt. And I got my ball from Jerry, and I marked my ball. I put it down. And as I was lining up my putt, my self-talk going around the 18th green, I never once thought that if I make this putt, I win the Masters tournament, or if I make this putt, I get the green jacket, or all these other things, accolades that come with winning a major championship. What I said to Mark O'Meara, to my own self-talk, was like, look, Mark, this is what you play for. Sooner or later, you're going to have to make a putt, whether it's here, 10, 11, 12. And the longer it goes on, the more the odds go out of your hands.
Yeah.
So why not just try to hit a good putt here? So that's exactly what I said to myself on the 18th green. I don't know why I did that or why I said that. I have no idea. I just think that's the way you got it.
Knowing you as well as I do, it's slightly out of character, these things that you're telling me for the last 20 minutes of your life there. Getting you to talk yourself up is usually really difficult. But you sound confident, or you were confident in what you were doing there. There was a difference. That wasn't the normal Mark O'Meara.
Yeah, no, maybe this all relates back to my relationship with Tiger.
Yeah,
the fact that I was with him, because I never – I look at myself and I look at my career and the way I play, John, as you know me well too. I don't think I'm a overconfident person. I wouldn't say that's my style.
I think ridiculously the other way.
I try to yourself down. And that's not a bad way. That's not a bad way.
No, but it's can't help you when you're in the heat of battle.
Well, that's what you're right, and you make a very valid point. Yeah. And I certainly believe that was the case on 18. So, I went through my routine, took my 2 practice strokes. I drew the putter back, and when I hit my putt, when it was about 2 feet off the putter, it was about a cup and a half break right to left. A famous putt. We've watched it. Everybody's not just mine, but a lot of other players.
Yeah.
And as the ball got about 2 feet off the putter, the people stand up.
Yeah.
Ken Venturi and Jim Nance are doing the commentating up in the tower, and I look as everybody else is looking, and the first thought in my mind was, at least I hit a good putt. I didn't know what was getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
And the ball's going down in about a foot and a half, 2 feet from the hole. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's going to go in. And I remember as it was breaking to the left, I remember my last thought in my mind was, please don't lip out. And when it caught the left center of the hole and dove into the hole, and my arms and hands and ping answer 2 went up in the air, my expression on my face, I know how I felt. I was more in shock and disbelief as to what the hell just happened.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
And then I realized I'd won the Masters. And it was crazy because as I went to go get my ball out of the hole, I didn't see all this happening, but Jerry had thrown his cap, his Augusta National cap that the caddies all wear, in the air, I guess, because I go to pick my ball up out of the hole, and there's a cap laying in Fred Couples' line.
Oh, right.
And so I'm getting my ball out of the hole, and I'm picking up the cap, and I'm looking at Fred, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Fred. And Fred's like, don't worry about it, Mo.
Yeah.
He was great. He was class.
Yeah. Does it seem like 25 years?
It does. It's gone by pretty quick, but I would tell you that the memories are still there, John, because I have a tremendous amount of respect for all the major championships. And certainly this one being, the first one of the year, and the anticipations, and everybody wants to watch the Masters, and the fact that it's always here at Augusta National, and as you know, as a person that's covered the game of golf for a long, long time,
steady, yeah,
a long time, like both of us, it's a special place.
Yeah. What's the best part of it? All the stuff that comes with. You're sitting here with a green jacket on, which I'm impressed with, obviously. I'm
a very small part, a very, 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 very small part of this club.
Yeah.
Right. The history of the Masters tournament and Augusta National. It was different back then. Like a lot of times, you see like whoever wins the 2023 Masters. They're at Madison Square Garden. They're dropping the puck. They're throwing out a baseball. They're on national TV. They're on all these TV stations and all these shows.
Yeah.
When I won the Masters, I got in my car the next day and drove over to Hilton Head, and I think I talked to Jim Rome on a radio show.
Right.
That was the extent of my.
There wasn't any trip to New York to do the Letterman show and read out the top 10 list or whatever.
Nothing like that.
Yeah. Nothing. That's strange, but because that's what happens now.
It's big, and a lot of it is because of the media attention. It's an incredible accomplishment to be a Masters champ. I'm proud of that. I think that any one of the 4 majors is very difficult to win, but this one, it always has amazed me that the foreign-born players have played so well at Augusta National. When you look at the past Masters champion,
for a while.
they really have.
Before your win, they
really have.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why that happens is because it takes a lot of creativity to win around Augusta National. Obviously, we watch the great Seve Ballesteros, Jose Maria, who won twice here, Langer, Woosnam, Faldo, Lyle. I mean, you can just keep going. They all won here, and power helps around here. But I think the creativity factor that you have to putt well and you have to have a good imagination, and the European players, the foreign-born players, have that because they have to play worldwide golf in all different conditions.
Well, the famous story. I mean, I've had Ollie on this podcast and I asked him about it. The famous story about Tiger going to play 9 holes on a practice day with Ollie and Seve, and just to watch the short game stuff, and then he disappeared off to practice what he'd seen. You know, he was smart enough
because they were geniuses. That's smart. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the best? I mean, you come back here every year, as you're entitled to. What's the best part of it? What sort of feeling do you get when you come back?
I mean, it's always exciting driving down Magnolia Lane. The memories there, and then the Champions Dinner, is rare. I mean, obviously I'm fortunate that I'm also an Open champion. So, when we're back at the old course and we're at St. Andrews to have a past Champions Dinner for all the guys that have hoisted a claret jug, and that's special. But this event, because it's always here, and Tuesday night, the only men in that room are guys that have won the Masters tournament besides the chairman.
Well, since you bring it up, it's on the list here.
Yeah.
The dinner this year.
Yes.
It's going to be tomorrow evening.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be quite interesting, or more interesting than normal, if you can put it that way. What's your thoughts going in?
My thoughts are that, and I've said this all along, like, look, I played worldwide golf, played around the world, and I've always said, look, to me, golf is bigger than all of this. Golf is fine. I mean, I know that the media have had a great time with all this, guys that went to the LIV Tour, guys that support the PGA Tour. I'm a PGA Tour member. I still play a little bit on the Champions Tour, but my take is tonight will be fine. I mean, it's going to be about Scotty Scheffler. It's going to be about the Masters tournament. Not every guy in that room necessarily are super tight anyways. Forget about who's on the LIV Tour, who's on the PGA Tour, who has said this, who said that. I've been a big believer that Tuesday night is going to be Tuesday night. It's going to be fine. I know that you guys
incredibly disappointing.
I'm sorry. I know the media has hyped this up.
I know
that this person's suing this person and that person. I think the players. My take is this, and I could be wrong. Listen, I'm just some 66-year-old dude.
Well, I can think of a couple that could kick things off. I mean,
I just don't,
Sergio, for example.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go there. No. I think they have too much respect for this place.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. Yeah.
I really do. And, I'm pretty much 100% sure that's exactly what's going to happen. I know that there's been a lot of talk. And in fairness, the chairman had called, I believe he's called every Masters champion just to talk to him, get a feel, doing the right thing. And I said to
you got that call.
I did. Yeah, and I said to Fred, I'm like, listen, Mr. Ridley, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I suspect you're right as well. I think
because all of a sudden, if let's say for example, John, that whoever it may be decides to make it an issue or
how bad are you going to look?
Exactly. Then it all of a sudden is about you.
Yeah.
And who needs to do that?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, there are some guys in there that we know have done stuff like that.
There's not a lot of common ground there.
No, I just don't. I hope for their sake that doesn't happen tonight, and I believe it won't.
Yeah. What's your feeling on LIV generally? I mean, the source of the money is always the
I understand that, but there's a lot of other countries in this world that don't have the best track record.
Yeah, I do, and I mean, I don't approve of Saudi Arabia and what they get up to. I mean, I don't think anybody does, right-minded people, but
fair enough.
There's plenty of other sports dabbling in Saudi Arabia, boxing and Formula One, and they seem to just skate on by. But golf, it's become this big thing.
Yeah, I don't understand why it is. I mean, obviously China's a big player in worldwide sports, and when people like, and I understand that there's been some bad stuff that's happened that's come out of Saudi Arabia, really bad stuff, but there's a tremendous amount of American companies that like big companies that still, they do business in Saudi Arabia. And we do a lot of business in China and a lot of countries around the world that necessarily don't have the best track record on human rights and a lot of different rights. And my take is that, I played a lot of golf with Greg Norman throughout my career. And Greg Norman was a heck of a player. Am I super tight with Greg Norman? Absolutely not. Do I hang out with Greg Norman? No. But I would say that some of his ideas, whether people like Greg Norman or they don't like Greg Norman, whether they like Live Tour or they don't like Live Tour, it's actually made golf better.
Well, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of what the PGA Tour get up to or have done. I mean, they've been bullies, and they haven't been great for other tours around the world. I mean, by expanding the way they've done, they basically destroyed the Australian tour by way of example. I mean, it's non-existent.
Yeah, I'm a former Australian Masters champion.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I was going to get to, one of the most impressive things about your CV is the fact that you've won, God knows, just about everywhere.
Yeah, I appreciate that, John.
But, what do you make of the strategy employed by both sides in this whole thing?
Nobody wins when you start battling and taking sides. Whenever you put a stake in the sand or wherever in the ground and you're not willing to move one way or the other and you say, okay, on this side you're a good guy, on that side you're a bad guy, nobody wins in that battle, right? And my take is that all this stuff could have been handled better. You look at what's transpired, and I know everybody always likes to say, which is true, okay, the PGA Tour is the best tour in the world,
well,
blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean,
you want to know why? Because they play for the most money.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the reason
you guys
why?
would go where the money is. Yeah.
The guys play for the most money. You're a professional golfer. You try to win tournaments. You try to make income. You try to make money. That's what you do. And the PGA Tour grew. I remember when I first started on the tour in '81, my first full year on the tour, there was not a lot of foreign-born players playing the PGA Tour full-time. Very, very small.
Yeah.
Seve would come over once in a while. This player. Right.
That's
there was a handful. And they wouldn't play full-time because they had to play full-time in Europe.
Yeah.
And I think that in time, we'll heal everything. But I find it quite ironic that, years ago I was in the meeting out in L.A. at Sherwood when Greg had come up with the idea of a little bit of a world tour. And then all of a sudden the PGA Tour comes up with these World Golf Championships, right? So, and now, you see what's happened with Live, and then next thing you know, now the tour has these elevated events where instead of playing for $12 million, they're playing for $20 million. So,
yeah, the PGA Tour, there's a fair bit of eye-rolling going on among quite a number of players on the European Tour over, the PGA Tour pumped a lot of money into the European Tour, basically, it looks like, to keep them away from the Saudis.
Right.
But there's no other benefit to the European Tour other than this money for the X number of years.
Yeah.
The guys, the elevated events that you mentioned, one of the big complaints I hear is that it looks bad because there was no European Tour event, not Wentworth or the Scottish Open, which would have been the obvious two.
Absolutely.
Why didn't you just do that, just to make it look right?
I personally,
it looks terrible the way they've done it.
Well, me, because I played probably 65 events on the European Tour or whatever, and one on the European Tour. My take is that you're 100% right.
If only for appearances' sake, just put Wentworth on there.
No,
it's
like
a proper
three of them.
event. It's a huge event, Wentworth.
I think that when you look at professional golf and you look at how it's grown, and obviously Tiger Woods had a huge impact on that, right? The media attention, everything around the whole Tiger Woods phenomenon throughout professional golf worldwide was huge. But when you look at golf and the way it's grown, you have to, I understand because I was more of a worldwide player, and my appreciation for how good golf is in Europe and how good golf is in Australia and Japan and the rest of the globe had improved a lot, but yet the prize money wasn't the same and this wasn't the same.
But you're so atypical in that. Your elite level American players of your generation they weren't interested in doing the travel unless they were,
compensated
bunch of appearance money.
Right.
Which, fair enough, if that's the market. But you went everywhere. And won everywhere as well. But very few guys did that.
I thought once I knew I was a winner on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, what was your motivation for?
Well, I mean, I listen. I got paid to come overseas. I mean, I did, but it wasn't like I got tons of money.
I saw the hotel room you had in Dubai once. It was
that's because Tiger Woods was alongside
he was in the
me.
one above. Yeah,
he was in the really nice one. I was just an okay one.
He had the
By
one,
the way, I
he had the one with the cinema.
Yeah, and then I did win Dubai that week, so maybe staying in the nice hotel worked pretty well. And at 47, I won in Dubai.
Yeah, I can remember you ordering 2 Diet Cokes for us, and it was 4 guys appeared to deliver this 2 Diet Cokes. Anyway, we digress.
Things have definitely changed, and I think time heals everything. And my take is that this has ruffled the feathers for sure. But I think deep down inside, hopefully, once again, I mean, golf should be bigger than all that. I mean, it is about prize money, it is about tournaments, but winning doesn't go away.
Do you think the PGA Tour would have gone in the direction that it's gone anyway, but a bit slower?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think they would have. It was ironic that all of a sudden, there became and I understand both sides of the fence. I understand. I mean, I've sat with Jay Monahan. I've talked to our commissioner. And I said to him, I said, and his take is that, look, if guys wanted to go and leave, I understand that, right? If it's maybe that somebody doesn't want to play that much longer, they want to get cash in, they want to make a bunch of money.
I mean, it made perfect, at least economic, financial sense for somebody. Lee Westwood being the classic example.
Ian Poulter, Grant
late
McDowell.
40s, not quite what he was.
Correct.
Of course, it made sense
Correct.
for him. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, because they were going to lose their status on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Grant McDowell is another example, who's a U.S. Open winner, a hell of a player, won on the tour, won all over Europe, won around the world. But at a stage of life where does he want to go back to qualifying school or play the Corn Ferry Tour?
And better than anybody is the black hole of professional golf, as I call it, sort of 45 to 50 for the vast majority. I mean,
very much
you're
so.
Between stools there.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So I understand why they went, and I think where it got a little bit in the crosshairs is when certainly Greg had a little bit to do with that. The fact that he felt
he hasn't helped in a lot.
No, he has not helped. To be fair,
no.
And then Phil, and then the comments Phil made, and then all this stuff, and then players that chose to leave. All of a sudden, it's them against us, and us against them, and bad mouthing one another, and now some throwing lawsuits around or whatever. Nobody really wins in that scenario.
There's been a few friendships broken by this.
There has been, and it's kind of a shame.
Absolutely, of course it is. Anytime that happens. But
didn't need it.
Yeah. Anyway, let's jump back to here. You don't play in the tournament anymore.
I don't. 2018 was the last year I played.
What was the motivation or the thought behind that? Because you probably could have gone a couple more years. I know you weren't enjoying it, but you could.
I don't want to shoot 78 every day at 76 just to be a ceremonial golfer out there. I felt like, John, you kind of knew, and every year that I had played, last time I had played relatively well here, I believe it was in 2015. I made the cut, and I finished 22nd. Yeah. But like Bernard Langer is a different animal.
Yeah,
he is done some phenomenal things. What he's done on the Champions Tour, now winning 45 times, the way he plays around Augusta National. It's not like Bernard Langer hits it that much further than I do, but he knows how to get it around. Yeah. He doesn't give up strokes. And I just got to the point where, you know what, I didn't need to go out there and embarrass myself and feel like if I make the cut, this would be great. So what?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said this to you before, I think. I always take the view that this part of this is that people just wanted to watch you play. They didn't really care what you were. I mean, Arnold Palmer being the classic example of that.
Yeah.
And Arnold played far beyond, maybe he should have. Yeah. But people wanted to see him, and he went out there and let people see him. And I think, I'm not sure you're Arnold Palmer in that respect.
Well, no, I'm far from any of those guys.
There would have been some of that with you.
Well, it's kind of you to say that, but I would say this. I would say that, even when in my own mind, in my own thought that 18 was going to be my last go around here, I didn't say anything. I didn't and after I got done, I talked to the media, and I was a little bit emotional. You were there, and maybe you weren't, but I was a little bit emotional. I was probably more emotional at Birkdale, my last Open championship, because I knew, and the media knew that was it for me. Yeah. Here, they didn't know because I never said anything. And so when I did make the call at the end on Friday after I'd missed the cut in 2018, I was happy with my decision. I was a little bit emotional. But I'd gotten some calls from different people like Ben Crenshaw. Why didn't you let us know? Why didn't you tell us at the dinner on? I said,
because he did the lap of honor. I mean,
I'm like, I won one time here. I'm a nobody. I'm lucky to have a green jacket. I'm in this room. I'm a Masters champion. I get that. But I also get that, I don't classify them in the stardom that most of the players are in. I'm just not.
Yeah. What was the motivation? Was it just partly you're getting older, partly the course was getting longer?
Yeah, for sure the course.
Yeah.
The demands of the golf course. Like if I could hit it 20 yards further, I'd still play.
Yeah.
I mean, if I hit it Fred Couples' length or maybe even Sandy Lyle's length, I'd still play. But I don't hit it that length. And it's a big thing around here at Augusta. When they made the golf course quite a bit longer, as we all know, and then I was out there yesterday and I played. And, I went back on those tees. Oh, my God. Like a tee on 11.
I know. Yeah.
There hasn't even been a mention hardly about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I played with Mike Weir yesterday, and Mike can still generate it pretty – and I can still hit it 275, right? We got up on 11, and I had a forewarning what they had done, and they pushed the tee back 20 to 25 yards and a little bit back to the left. I was a yard and a half. If my ball was in the left shortcut,
right,
but it was about 2 or 3 yards into the fairway.
Wow.
And Mike was 10, 12 yards in the fairway. I had 262, and Mike had 250 to the hole on 11. Now, really?
Yeah.
I mean, and 13, I get the fact that the golf ball, these players all have 188, 185, 182 ball speed, and they're hitting it a long way. But once again, by having a 540-yard par 4, that doesn't create – that only helps the more powerful player. I think they're going kind of backwards in all this.
Well, in the case of 13, though, I sympathise in that they were trying to recreate the drama of the second shot, which had kind of been lost. I mean, they were hitting 7-irons and things.
Well, it was hard because they hit it through the fairway too, though. So you had to – so coming back to the Masters tournament and this tournament specifically – some of the greatest holes in golf, you know this. You play, you've watched it, you've commentated on it, are the shortest holes in golf.
Yeah, yeah.
Number 3 and number 12 are prime examples at Augusta National. The two shortest holes, they can create the most havoc.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of havoc in a 540-yard par 4.
No. I mean, and the tee shots, they'll hit tee shots this week, and it'll be absolutely 100% certain what they're going to do with the second shot.
Correct. I think it makes 13, in my opinion. I went back and I hit from the tee back there. And I hit a good drive, and of course, I had.
Did you get to the corner? You could see.
I had to kind of hit a low draw under the one branch, so it's actually going to benefit. I think because now it takes the question out of I really got to bend it around the corner.
Yeah, you can hit a straight drive.
I think they'll either hit a straight drive or a straight 3-wood,
right,
and then they'll be back at 215. But these kids hit 6-iron from 215 now.
Yeah,
they're not hitting a hybrid in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I actually think it's going to take some of the drama out.
Which is a shame, because that might be the best hole in the world.
I think the players, if you want to mess with the players, you got to make them make decisions, force them to have to make a decision, make a call, right, and put doubt in their heads, like you said, or make them curve the ball, force them to have to curve the ball.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I bang on it. I mean, that's been lost a little bit at your level.
Huge.
I mean, nobody's playing like Seve or Lee Trevino anymore, and I'd say that a million
Corey
times.
Pavin.
Now. There you go. And the Luke Donald, number 1 in the world, that's not going to happen again.
I don't
the way
think
it's
so.
going. It's just he made everything for a whole year to be.
Got to have the power.
Yeah, I mean, there should be an advantage to that. I don't mean to say that there shouldn't be, but it's disproportionate now, I think.
It is, and I know there's all this talk about rolling the ball back.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that.
I don't know all about that stuff because I'm not up to speed on all of it. But I will say this: the difference kind of has been over the last 20 years. Power always had a little bit of an advantage in the game, but the powerful players back in the olden years didn't have the short game, didn't have the putting ability.
Yeah.
Now, the top 10, top 12 players in the world, they have it all.
Yeah.
I mean, a Scotty Scheffler, a John Rahm, these players.
I know, but here's the frustration of that. We say they've got it all, and I absolutely don't question that for a minute, but they don't get to display all of it anymore, the way the game is at the top level, with the way the equipment is. They're incredibly good at a narrow form of golf.
Correct.
And it should be wider.
But that's why, in my opinion, the Open Championship is the best championship.
Yeah.
Because playing links golf forces them to have to be more creative.
Yeah.
And then weather conditions, wind.
Yeah.
Forget. I understand rough. You can grow the rough 20 inches deep if you want. Okay. Doesn't create the drama and the atmosphere as it does when the wind's blowing 40 miles an hour.
Well, that's right. Plus, and the courses are still playable in
Correct.
that wind because they're open in front. You can always run the ball in.
Right.
Whereas over here, generally speaking, that's taken. I mean, that 17th hole at Sawgrass is I'd get down on that hole because everybody's hitting the same shot.
Yeah.
There's only one shot.
Right.
I'm kind of snobby about it. I
No,
know.
I mean, that's it. But it's kind of like they had to create some type of drama.
Yeah.
Right. Basically, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, you've not for the first time today. You've preempted a question I was going to ask. You won the two majors in '98. What's your favourite? Do you have a favorite?
Well, I've always said my favorite.
Yeah.
So to me,
That's what
there's four. Well, there's four major championships. We all know them, right? The Masters. Obviously, it used to be the Masters, the U.S. Open, the Open Championship, and the PGA. Now they've obviously changed the way the order that they're played in. My take is when I was young and when I first started winning tournaments, not only just in the U.S. but around the world, I didn't know if I'd ever win a major. But if I only had one major and only one major that I could have, I'd want the Claret Jug. Luckily, I have a Claret Jug. But the reason why I say that is because, look, golf was started there, right? And links golf, in my opinion, is the best form of golf that you can play because the factors are not determined by just the player or the equipment or whatever. It's not by the manicuring. It's all played, in my opinion, where the creativity aspect of it and the naturalness of it is what links golf is all about.
Yeah. And this place has got some of those characteristics. Not all of them, obviously, but
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's the imagination around the green.
Yeah,
that's why, I said to somebody one time, in fact, I was talking to Mr. Player about it. You look at the names that are on the Masters tournament trophy. Once again, like we spoke about earlier, how many foreign-born players have won the Masters tournament? But then on the other flip side of it, you look at the Claret Jug, and you look at the amount of Americans that have won the Claret Jug. You're like, well, wait a minute, they hardly play any links golf in America. Why would the Americans do so well in the Open Championship?
Yeah.
But the fact that when you're standing on that 18th green and you're announced as the champion golfer of the year, and you're the memories and the history of the Claret Jug and of the Open Championship, I don't know if it gets much better than that. And I'm an American, not to diss on the U.S. Open or the PGA, but
I don't think it's a coincidence that the Europeans who've won here, a lot of them have won the Open as well, and the ones who haven't have come very close to winning the Open, but they've never won the U.S. Open or the PGA. None of them.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's very different golf.
Very much so.
Yeah. So. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about the distance thing a wee bit more. I mean, you said you haven't paid that much attention, but if I was to put you in charge, what would you do? You're king of golf for the day.
I've been a big proponent that over the years that I've always felt like as long as the equipment's legal, I don't have a problem with it. Now, I do understand that for a 20-year span there, or maybe even more, that the manufacturers were far in advance of the USGA and the R&A.
Yeah.
And their ability to create stuff. And so the USGA and the R&A had a lot of catching up to do to the technology aspect that the manufacturers had. So I don't blame the manufacturers. And I really don't necessarily blame the R&A or the USGA. I don't know. I'm just not – I don't –
Yeah, I mean, Mike Clayton, or my friend Mike Clayton, he puts it best. I mean, he said at the beginning when golf emerged, the equipment was pretty rudimentary and the courses were winning the battle. They were, because you see the scores. I mean, they were very difficult with that equipment. Yep. Then the equipment got better, and for a long time it was a pretty fair fight between the courses and the equipment. And now it's gone the opposite way it was at the beginning, in that the equipment is now advanced and it's killing the golf courses.
Fair enough.
It's winning that battle.
No, I mean, fair enough.
It needs to be evened up.
No, that's a fairly decent argument.
Yeah.
But I'd also flip it on you from the standpoint that the athletes that have chosen to play the game a little bit, you'd have to say they're quite a bit better.
Have you seen pictures of Arnold Palmer at the top of his game? Tell me that wasn't an athlete.
No, he was. But how many of them were like that? Was he 6'3" and playing like that? 6'2"?
Yeah, they're bigger. You're right.
Because athletes are bigger. They're stronger. They're more well trained. They're swinging at it harder because they're growing up
because they
having to do that because they can and they have to. You're right. I mean, the club heads are bigger. They're way more forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
They're half the weight of what we used to play. Instead of 125 grams, they're 60 grams.
Maybe that's something needs to be done about that.
They could do that.
They could make driving more difficult again.
They could, or they could. I don't know how you do it. I mean, it's really difficult
we could talk
right
about
now.
This endlessly.
You really could.
Yeah.
My take would be is you could put more spin on the ball, force it so the ball doesn't curve as much because
there's a few solutions.
It's
I'd
been
like
a
to see it go
combination.
sideways more.
Yeah, exactly. But if you made a ball that forced the players, maybe you don't roll the ball back. Maybe you do something with the ball to where you force it to have more spin. So if you go at it hard. And you're hitting at a 188 ball speed, but if you're not absolutely precise,
it's off the charts.
It's off the charts more. And see, today it's not. Right? We both know that. Yeah. That's where the problem lies.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't have a lot of time for the argument of, if we rolled it back for everybody. I mean, 99% of the punters, they wouldn't notice. They have no idea how far they hit it. If you've got poor technique, it doesn't matter what you're using. Let's be honest about that. I mean, that's the dirty little secret.
Maybe just roll it back for professional golf.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem. You guys, the game that you play has never been more different from the game that I play. Never been more different. So that's bifurcation in all but name.
I guess if you wanted to find the best players, I mean, players are always adapting, right? They're always adapting, whatever it may be, whether with their coach or this or that.
That's what I mean. If they set the courses up differently and change the equipment, the players would adapt in a few months.
They would. I mean, look, if you really wanted to find the best player, I mean, you'd just say everybody's got to play this one ball. You figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Have one ball.
Yeah. Exactly.
And say, look, because the problem is everybody's tweaking everything just to fit their type of performance. Whereas if you said, okay, we're going to have a standard, like in a football match, basketball, baseball, the ball is exactly the same for everybody, right? Yeah. And the player has to adapt to that. And I know it wouldn't happen because like all the manufacturers, they want their notoriety and this and that and sponsorships. I get all that. But to be fair, if you gave everybody the same ball and say, okay, go play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. But again, we could talk about it endlessly. And I'm going to finish because I'm aware we've been over an hour now. But you're here for the week.
I am.
For the Masters.
I am.
Tell us some of the things you'll be doing and what's the most fun now that you can come on. There's no pressure.
Well, no, I mean, obviously I get to come on and talk with you, John.
Yeah.
I get to hook up with you and get to talk about little things that go on at Augusta. I don't go out on the golf course hardly at all. I don't play practice rounds. I played yesterday on Sunday and got to see the condition of the course. The course is really, really good, as well as it should be, right? And
I'm shocked to hear that. Yeah.
I will go to the dinner on Tuesday night, and so hopefully that all goes smoothly. I think it will, like we've talked about earlier. And then Wednesday I'll play in the par 3.
Right.
So that'll be fun. I'm going to have a friend come in. What I get a big kick out of is that once in a while I bring people in that'll come and stay at the house with me that maybe have never been to Augusta National. And I bring them in and I show them around the club.
Who caddies for you?
I'm actually going to have my next door neighbor in Vegas that's flying in right now. Right. He's about a +2 handicap, 48-year-old guy. He's been to Augusta before for a practice round, but he's never been. He's never come in to see the clubhouse or the Champions locker room. And so Scott's going to caddy for me in the par 3 on Wednesday. And I'm going to play with Fred Couples and Ben Crenshaw. So, I think he's going to get a big kick out of that. I've had my wife caddy for me. We've seen how this club has really grown, because years ago when they played the par 3, it was probably stick to the plan. Now you got kids out there and grandkids.
Yeah. So
it's on TV. It's on TV. But it's kind of nice to let your hair down, which I don't have that much hair anymore, nor do you, John.
I'd never discuss hair.
But I think the club, we've seen how much things have changed here with the women's amateur tournament that was on Saturday, with the drive, chip, and putt. These kids that I presented an award to yesterday, the 10 and 11-year-old boys. I mean, I couldn't imagine when I was 10 or 11 or 7 to 9 or 13 to 15, boy or girl coming here and being able to be on these grounds and in front of their family and friends and on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you
got to give credit.
God knows many people in the media. I've criticised this place on a few things, but they do a lot of good things as well. I mean,
They do.
I've been to the Asia Pacific Amateur the last 2 years, and that thing really does what it says on the tin. I mean, it promotes golf in places that wouldn't normally. I mean, the most fun for me is I go there and I write about guys who've got no chance of winning the tournament,
right?
But they come from weird places and they've got great stories about how they got there.
Cool.
And that's, it's
the best.
Exactly, and they're doing a good job.
So that hopefully it will grow the game, and I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Mark, thank you for your time. It's always been a pleasure talking to you. I've always enjoyed it, and. Mark O'Meara, 1988 Masters champion. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Huggy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, some terrific insights and memories there from the two-time major winner. And a big thanks to Mark O'Meara and John Huggan for taking the time to put that together. Now, I hope that discussion has whetted your Masters appetite, because next up, Huggy sits down with one of the game's most interesting characters, 1991 Masters winner from Wales, Ian Woosnam.
It was nice having money, but I didn't really think too much of it. I was just thinking about, winning golf tournaments, and if you win golf tournaments, the money comes with it.
That's coming up on The Thing About Golf.